morning, everybody, and welcome to Foundations. It is Friday, November the 3rd in 2023. Glad to have you with me this morning. Glad to spend some time together. I keep getting warned by Facebook. Just now I got warned again. Obviously, there's some stuff going on. People are posting some odd stuff, so I just keep getting warned to make sure my content is good. I don't know what that's about, but okay, I don't know. Maybe the content is good. We'll figure that out before it's all done, maybe, huh? There we go, folks. I appreciate you joining me this morning. Appreciate each of the times that we get to spend together. Thankful for all of the things that we have learned along the way with each other's time spent and invested in each other. So thank you again for joining me for Foundations this morning, and looking forward to sharing some thoughts with you today. So before we jump into the thoughts from today and the passage from today, let's get to the question for today. Here's a definite true cold weather question, because everyone wants to eat this once it gets cold. So here it is. Ice cream. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? Now, I know I throw you off guard because cold weather does not make you think of ice cream. Hot weather does, but not cold weather. But I got to be honest with you, I like ice cream. Ice cream's been on my mind the last few days. Just had myself a little bit of ice cream a couple of days ago. So it was a keto ice cream, if I may add, which means that it doesn't have as much of the stuff that you don't need in it. Just maybe I'm fooling myself, look in the mirror and thank God there's keto ice cream. So what is your favorite ice cream flavor? I know that, again, ice cream isn't what you think of, but here's my fave. I love Ben & Jerry's Chocolate Cherry Garcia. Chocolate Cherry Garcia. You don't see it in the stores much anymore. Number of local stores used to carry it, and I would grab it from time to time as a treat, but it's hard to find now. So, but as the old saying goes, it is the bomb, man. I love Chocolate Cherry Garcia by Ben & Jerry's. So what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Go ahead and comment down below and let me know what that is, okay? So today I'm going to read one of my favorite passages. I have shared it what feels like millions of times, and my mama told me not to over-exaggerate, and my daddy told me he'd spank me if I did. So I'm trying not to over-exaggerate, but I feel like I've shared this passage almost as often as any other passage, maybe more than any other passage that I personally share with others and that I enjoy. So as we look at this passage today, because the core of its story tells this main theme, just stop. Let's dive in together and see if you can let me explain what I mean. All right, here we go. It's found in Mark chapter 9, and it begins at about verse 16 or 17, somewhere in that range. It says, one of the men in the crowd spoke up and said, "Teacher, I brought my son so you could heal him. He is possessed by an evil spirit. They won't let him talk. And whenever the spirit seizes him, it throws him violently to the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out the evil spirit, but they couldn't do it." Jesus said to them, "You faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought the boy, and when the evil spirit saw Jesus, it threw the child into a violent convulsion, and he fell to the ground, writhing and foaming at the mouth. "How long has this been happening?" Jesus asked the boy's father. He replied, "Since he was a little boy. The spirit often throws him into the fire or into water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us." Here's the phrase, "if you can." If you can. I love that phrase, if you can. You've had an if you can moment. I'm going to read the rest of the passage in a second, but I want you to think about this. You have had an if you can moment. The pain, the grief, the broken marriage, the difficult finances, the job situation, whatever it is, you've prayed to God and things have not come out the way you thought. And as a result, you have had one of those moments where you've said, "God, if you can." Now, Jesus has an answer for this man. It may not be the answer he gives to you, but the idea behind that answer God says to everyone. Start picking up at verse 23. What do you mean, if I can? Jesus said. Anything is possible if a person believes. The father instantly cried out, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. When Jesus saw the crowd of onlookers was growing, he rebuked the evil spirit. Listen, you spirit that makes this boy unable to hear or speak. I command you to come out from this child and never to enter him again. Then the spirit screamed and threw the boy into another violent convulsion and then left him. The boy appeared to be dead. A murmur ran through the crowd as people said, he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and helped him to his feet, and he stood up. Afterward, when Jesus was alone in the house with the disciples, they asked him, why couldn't we cast out the evil spirit? Jesus replied, this kind can be cast out only by prayer. Some versions say prayer and fasting. Others say that it will only come out through faith and through prayer and fasting. So Jesus is basically stating that there's a focus issue here, and that was the struggle for the disciples. And so we today need to spend some time talking about some ideas I think will transform your faith and transform your life as you just stop these things. Just stop. And I think all of them are found right here in this passage. You and I have come to places oftentimes where we say, Jesus, please handle this. He doesn't. And then over and over again when things are happening, we say, if you can. And Jesus says, what do you mean if I can? And then we get to the place in time where it says, if you'll just believe. Boy, there's a tough spot, isn't it? So, as we come together this morning, I want to talk about some just stops. Some just stops. One quick clarifier, one quick thought before I jump in here. And I think it needs to be said in our current day, especially in our current theology struggles that are going on in our current society. You cannot, and I wished we could some days, I understand if we did, that it would really go awry, and you know why. You cannot just say something and say, Jesus, do it, and have Jesus show up like a sickum dog that you can just say, go get it, or like a genie in a bottle. You may or may not realize this. It's hard to even say it because it's hard to endure it in my life sometimes. Life is full of sin and brokenness. And that sin and brokenness unfortunately causes pain. And there are pains that will never go away this side of heaven. I wished it were different. I wished I could promise you entire, complete wholeness when it comes to the exterior of your world. I wished I could promise you no more pain, no more cancer, no more broken homes, no more job losses, no more financial struggles, no more houses being repossessed, no more letters in the mail that says you're overdrawn. I wished I could promise all those things that you could just say, in Jesus' name, and they would all go away. But I have to be honest with you. Even in Jesus' day, it didn't happen to everyone. That's so hard. And some are going to push back right now. I get it. Some are going to say, but you just don't, and you don't know my faith, and you don't know my church, and you don't know what we believe, and you don't know this. And I get it. I get it, okay? I get it. Take a deep breath. But let me ask you this question. How many times have you prayed and it did not come out your way? So when I say just stop, when I talk about the idea of about some things that we can do, and it will transform your life, and it will cause you to have a better faith. When I say that, what I'm talking about is I want to build inside of you a perseverance that says that I will hang on to the end, because Jesus said, Paul said, those who hold on to the end, they shall see the kingdom of God. There's only one way to hang on to the end, and that is to grow your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. And to do that, I think we need to just stop some things we can find in this passage. All right? So I got the clarification done. Let's jump in. I think, first of all, you need to just stop and realize, as I've said just a minute ago, there are areas of your life where you are just weak. Like this father, there are places in your life that you've asked over and over again and it hadn't changed. You've asked the people at church and it hasn't changed. You've asked the people in the big religious television program, it hadn't changed. Your cancer is still there. Your child is still not the type of child they need to be. The circumstances with that relationship are still broken. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to change. So you need to stop acting like if you just try harder, if you just figure out the formula, if you just get the right words to say, like some poem or incantation, then God will fix everything according to the way I want it fixed. Just stop that and realize there are areas in your life where you are weak. This man was worn out. He was tired and he sought help from the disciples and he didn't get any. And then he sought help from Jesus. And Jesus gave him what he needed. Let me clarify this. You're weak. God will give you what you need in your weakness. For this man, it was to give his son back. I don't know what God's trying to work out in your life. I'm not smart enough. I'm certainly not God, so I don't have any insights beyond just watching from the outside. But God sees your heart and he knows what you're going through. You need to just stop trying to act strong all the time and admit that you're weak. Because when we say we are weak, Jesus says, then we are strong through him. So just stop and admit that you're weak. And then just stop thinking that everyone you ask will have the right answers. And if you don't find the answers from one, go ask another and you'll get the answers. And the answers will make sense, and sooner or later you'll figure it all out. Or maybe you'll be so self-reflective that you figure it all out. And as a result of figuring it all out, you will be able to get all the help you need by asking the questions that you were supposed to ask. You say, well, when I get the right questions and the right answers, everything will be all right. Listen to me. Just stop believing. Just stop believing. I'm not talking about stop asking, but stop believing that just because you ask, just because you go to counseling, just because you do those things, that you will not have to continue choosing Jesus Christ in the struggles that you're going through. And let me tell you something. I don't even like this, but this is still true. God allows us to wrestle with things. And sometimes while I'm wrestling with my unforgiveness, when I'm wrestling with my anger, when I'm wrestling with my doubts, when I'm wrestling with my struggles with the way people act, when I'm wrestling, I ask all kinds of people all kinds of questions. And sometimes I get so crazed and so focused that I keep trying to ask from person to person and from group to group and from specialist to specialist and from smart person to smart person. And I find myself just asking a bunch of questions. And here's what I found when you ask in a lot of different areas. Oftentimes you get a lot of different answers. And so just stop thinking that if you ask the right people and you ask the right questions, that you'll have all the answers you want. In reality, this situation we live in, this sinful world, full of struggle, full of wars, full of rumors of wars, all of that are all things that we can ask questions of some, but you got to sometimes realize that there aren't solutions that are just easily handled by asking questions. This father went to the disciples. They were the most committed people around Jesus. They were following him everywhere. And he ended up having to go back to Jesus, even though they should have known. You want to ask some questions just for the sake of asking questions sometimes? You want to be able to say it out loud or ask it out loud? Find a time and get alone. And when you get alone, talk to Jesus. Ask him. And then for those of you like me who are in ministry, for those of you like me who are maybe been Christians for a long time, I've been a Christian for 50 years. So that's longer than most of you have been alive. So think about this. Just stop acting like you have the corner on Jesus and all the power to do what he wants. The disciples thought they had the corner on it, thought if they just did the right thing, if they just said the right things, if they just acted the right way, if they just prayed the right prayer, if they just whatever it was, because here's what they come. They come and talk to Jesus and they say, why couldn't we do this? They were puzzled because they had done some things previously. They had seen some things. They knew God could do it. And yet, despite the fact that they had been through all of that, in this instance, for reasons I can't tell you, Jesus chose to teach a lesson here that the disciples needed to learn. You do not have the corner on Jesus. Stop acting like you do. I know a lot about God. I know a lot of theology. I know a lot about the things in Scripture. I know a lot about all the books I've read. I know a lot about relational issues and work issues and business issues and religious issues. I know a lot. But there are days that I still have to learn. I do not have it all, and I do not have a corner on the market of what Jesus can do in someone's life. Just stop acting like you have the corner on Jesus, the corner of the market on Jesus. That you have all the power if you just say and do. And then real quick, please, no throwing anything, no complaints. If you're going to comment, please be kind. Just because you say it doesn't make it real. No matter how much faith you have, no matter how much power you think you have in Jesus, you do not have the ability to just say it. And God is obligated to do it. Just stop acting like you have the corner of the market on Jesus. And then stop acting like you have your stuff together. You know, one of the most difficult things for a believer who's going through a hard time, or for a non-believer who's really struggling, is when someone acts like they have all their stuff together and they all have a bunch of answers. If you just do A, then you'll be all right. And then add B to it and then look out. Add C to it and you'll have victory. Add D to it and you'll be on top of the world in your faith. Boy, you sound like Job's counselors and friends. It must be your problem until you get your problem taken care of, right? Would you just stop acting like you have all your stuff together? The best of us, the best of Christians, do not have all their stuff together. I like Sean McDowell. Sean McDowell has some really cool things on Facebook. Not Facebook, but on YouTube. Go check him out. Go check out Sean McDowell, Josh McDowell's son. Recently had surgery. Go check out his video on what God taught him through his sickness. I really like Josh. I like his I really like Sean. I like his honesty. But here's what I know. All of us, even professors teaching at a Christian college, can find ourselves in a place where we can ask questions, where God needs to give us new insight for the way he wants us to move forward. I really appreciate his humanness and his commitment to Christ. You do not have all your stuff together. People in ministry do not have all their stuff together. People who have been Christians for 50 years don't always have all their stuff together. There is plenty about God that we cannot know, that I do not know, that Job's friends did not know, that the disciples obviously did not know. So stop acting like you have it all together. If they didn't, you can't either. So realize we walk by faith, not by sight. We walk by faith because there's truth enough. As John wrote in John 21, there's enough written here to believe. We do this because that's where our faith is, and we do not walk by sight. And then the last, just stop and go to the Savior. I don't know what you're facing. I may not even know what the answer to your circumstance is. Heck, I may not have any answers. The disciples didn't know why they couldn't heal this man. But hear me out. You need to understand that when things have happened previously, when things have been fixed in a circumstance previously, do not count that God owes you the same thing again. Hear me out. Just because God did it once doesn't mean he will do it the same way again. There are not two Red Sea partings. There are not two Jerichos. There are not two resurrections. There are not two Pauls. There are not two books of Revelation. There are not repeats in some situations. And so God doesn't always do the same thing he used to do, the same way he used to do it. But when he does it because it will bring him honor and glory and lead others to place faith in him. Stop holding on to previous victories like God owes you something. Celebrate them to say you know he is faithful, and then persevere and hang on in the current trial so that you can find the hope and the help and the faith you need to get through. And then last, I don't think it's least, just stop pretending, stop avoiding, stop running, stop sidestepping, or any other evasive tactic that you're trying to stay away from Jesus with. Stop it. Stop your religious activities. Stop whatever it is that gets between you and Jesus. Stop your Christian music if it's between you and Jesus. Do not allow anything to come between you and Jesus. If you're not a believer today, don't allow preachers to get between you and Jesus. Don't allow hypocrites to get between you and Jesus. Don't allow church people to live next door and cuss and call you names, keep you from Jesus. Because all of us as humans are frail. And Jesus Christ is the only Son of God. And he is the only one who has the answer for all of it. And that answer is eternal, not temporary. So trust him with your eternal so he can help you persevere during this temporary. Or as the song by Katie Nicole says, just hold on. I put the link to that song in the post here. Go check it out. Just hold on. Today I encourage you to just stop and then just hold on to the one man, to the God man, who can get you through anything and everything and then take you home to be with him throughout all eternity. I'm looking forward to that day. Until then, today I ask him to help me choose when my unbelief is high, to help me know when my mind says there's no way, to help me persevere when I want to quit. I say, Lord, here's my unbelief. Help my unbelief. Here's what I can believe, help my unbelief. That's what I had to do. Some days that's 10% belief and 90% unbelief. Other days it's 90% belief and 10% unbelief. Doesn't matter. When I commit everything I have, my belief and my unbelief, I've committed 100% to God. That's all he's ever asked. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful he can handle it. And I bet you are too. Hey, everybody. Appreciate you being with me this morning. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming and spending time at Foundations each week. May God's grace and peace rule in your heart. May he give you the things that will encourage your heart to persevere here in this life, especially in the world that we live in today, where everything seems to be in turmoil, and everywhere you look, people seem to hate each other every time. Doesn't seem like they love anymore. Why don't we just say, Jesus, help my unbelief. Help me love, because that's where I'm having a hard time. All right? Share Foundations with your family and friends. Share it on your social media pages. Send out an email to invite others to join you to watch Foundations on Friday mornings. Thanks for tuning in today. God's best to you. Have a fantabulous Friday and a stupendous weekend, all right? Just a couple of new words. Bye-bye now.